Hello, world. This is America's Supermom, and this is a special edition that I call the Corona Chronicles. During this time, we are suffering from a pandemic that is affecting everyone across the world. We are joined with the rules and regulations of being shelter in place, which means we are limited with the ability to go about our daily business, confined to our homes based on a coronavirus that has been sweeping the entire world. For some people, the effects could be mild. For others, it can be fatal. So we are coming together as a community, as a family during this time of difficulty to share what it is like in our part of the world, how we are affected, and the things that we have in common, what kind of problems that are taking place in our industries and in our relationships and finances, and coming together so that we can plan for a better tomorrow. As this epidemic or pandemic crosses the world, we are waiting for relief. We're waiting for the virus to die off and for us to go back to some state of normalcy, whatever that may be, after things kind of settle down. So, what is that going to look like once the dust settles? How are things going to be different? So, as we go through this process, we're coming together as a world to create ideas, strategies, connect in ways that we have never connected before. So, that is the purpose of the special podcast that I call the Corona Chronicles, so that we can get some insight and have empathy and compassion on one another, create new innovative ideas that can not only improve our life, but our fellow brothers and sisters across the world. Thank you so much for joining us.
I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited about my next guest, Caroline Carter. And actually, we haven't met, but I have listened to her wisdom through a LinkedIn live video that she did with Lindy Chapman probably about a week ago. So, really excited because she has some very great ideas and insights about how we can move forward post pandemic and being able to look at the glass as half full instead of half empty. So these are people that I really resonate with, I gravitate towards. So I'm excited to get to know her better and hear her insight today, as well as I'm sure many of you that are listening. So at this time, I want to give Caroline the floor to introduce herself, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Lachelle. I couldn't have asked for a better introduction. For those of you that don't know me, I am one of the foremost experts on total home transition in the country. Well, what does that actually mean? It means that I educate and empower anyone selling their home to package it and sell it for top dollar and coordinate the perfect move by helping people to focus their time and save them money while also reducing the anxiety associated with this hugely stressful, life-changing event. So I'm really happy to be here today. And you may have seen, Lachelle, on the podcast, I recently released a book about the total home transition process called Smart Moves, How to Save Time and Money While Transitioning Your Home and Life. And it's available on Amazon.
Love that. And so, this is definitely a great topic during this time because some people are transitioning.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, we're staying sheltered in place, but some people, their income has changed and they
Right.
are in a position where they have to move or
Right.
they are making some, proactive choices to downsize or whatever the case may
Right.
be. So this is a great topic for us to kind of go over. So for somebody who is, first of all, in this panic mode of thinking, nobody's going to want to buy my house,
Right.
or I'm the only one who's going to be moving. What
Right.
advice would you give them right now?
Well, Lachelle, I think I'd start by advising them to breathe. We're all in the same boat during this pandemic. And you are absolutely right insofar as there are going to be, many of us who are taking a deep dive and looking at our lives and our footprints and where we live and what we're doing and how we're spending our time. Many of us are going to choose to make changes, to downsize or right size. Others of us are going to have to make changes due to financial setbacks, the loss of a job. So there is going to be a lot of movement post-COVID. What I would say is to recognize, number one, even without COVID, selling your home and moving is in one of the top 5 most stressful life-changing events, along with death, divorce, illness, and loss of a job. Think about that. That's they're literally putting the stress of moving up there with the loss of a loved one. It's almost incredible. But, I think that what we need to keep in mind is that 40 million of us, the USA Today reports that us move each year. So it's a huge transition for many of us. And I got into this business 15 years ago. I started out as a home stager, which, is someone that typically has an inventory and will bring furniture into a vacant home to sell it. But I realized very early on that was not where I could really be serving sellers. Where I really could be serving sellers was helping them to make better decisions surrounding the sale of their largest asset. For many of us, our home is our largest asset, right? And we need every single dollar that we can possibly get when we're selling our home. Yet we didn't, from what I observed, no one knew which choices to make. I mean, they were dealing with realtors. 86% of us sell our homes through a realtor as opposed to, a for sale by owner or an iBuyer platform. But yet not all realtors were giving us good information. So I thought, wait a minute, I need to step up and serve this community by telling them, wait a minute, every dollar you spend counts, and not all changes or updates are created equal. So over the years, I watched and learned and listened and really understood, if I spend $2,000 on a new carpet in my house, am I going to see that return? And realized that, again, I could be a truth teller to work specifically with sellers and say, look, don't do that, do this, because you are more assured of getting your money out, right, of the house. The other thing is the moving industry itself. Truly, it's come a long way, Lachelle, in the last 15 years. But honest to God, I mean, no one can navigate the moving industry. I mean, it seems like, no offense, but it's run by a bunch of old men who still use clipboards and, slide rulers to tell us, how much it's going to cost. So even though technology is improving, people think, no problem, I know how to move. But you know what? You don't know what you don't know. So I focused on these 2 aspects of the transition process, as well as helping people sort through their items, right? The average American home has over 300,000 items. 300,000. Now, okay, they're including, pot tops and, hot pads and so forth and so on. But even still, if you think about the fact that you need to make a decision about each one of those items, am I going to pack it? Am I going to store, package? Am I going to store it? Am I going to sell it? Am I going to donate it? No wonder why we're all exhausted at the thought of this process. So what I did was I got very clear very quickly that the seller needed help. And over the course of years, created a step-by-step process called the total home transition process that takes all the guesswork out. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a truth teller, and I focus only on what you need to know Not what I think you need to know, but what you need to know to make good quality decisions to sell your house and move so that you can, so that you can start, your life in the next home, in an organized way. You haven't broken the bank. So anyway, so that's what I've been doing for 15 years. And it's obviously, helped thousands of people. So I'm, really thrilled to be here today.
Awesome. So, you brought up a good point. I have a lot of notes here, but we're going to go to the
Yes.
decision because this is where people get stuck, because they have this analysis paralysis or they get all the facts and then don't take any action. You can apply this with anything outside of moving.
Right.
So what advice do you give people? I mean, 300,000 items per average, that's a lot of stuff. So for people that are stuck with not being able to make a decision, what advice do you give them to kind of begin that process?
That's a great question. You totally led me to what I want to really dive into today. And that's the idea of mindset. Okay. Now let's talk about mindset as it relates to transition, home transition. Okay. The mindset, when you're talking about the emotionality of moving and moving on, there are actually two stories that are running concurrently in your mind. The first is the tactical story, the issues surrounding the reason for moving, the tools I'm going to need, the logistics, the sorting, who's going to help me, how am I going to pay for it? But the second story, that's the most important story and what I want to talk about today. It's the emotional story. It is present in every single one of the decisions that we make. We're just maybe not aware of it, but it's particularly true when you're talking about home and moving, changing your lives. And that's why your emotions create this paralysis. Because we all get in our heads. Let's take for instance. If I were to say to you, or if you were to say to me, Caroline, I'm getting ready to put my home on the market. Tell me what I need to do. I would walk in and say, okay, Lachelle, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the paint, flooring, carpeting, lighting. And at the end of our walkthrough, I'm going to present you with what I believe are going to be changes that will lead to a higher list and or sales price and save you days on the market. What you hear is my judgment, my negativity, that I don't like your carpet or the, orange dining room and the pink bathroom. So what you're hearing and what you're reacting to is the emotionality surrounding the move. Not the practicality, not the logistics. Even if I'm a leading expert and I tell you, Lachelle, here's what you need to do. Please trust me because I've helped thousands of people. You say, well, that's all fine and good for them, but I just painted my dining room and I love orange. So I'm not going to spend $200 more to paint my dining room. That reaction is an emotional reaction. So when we talk about mindset, in order to truly understand how to help ourselves, because as you know, we're our own worst enemies, we need to look at the emotional story that's playing in the back of our minds as we approach this process and make decisions related to it. So how do we change our mindset? That's your next question, right? Okay. The most important way we can change it is by looking at your home as a marketable financial asset, as a house. Does that make sense? All of a sudden, right? So you're feeling like I'm, perhaps making judgments about your home. But if we agree, Lachelle, we are going to package your house like a box of cereal. Okay? We are going to understand exactly who the target buyer is, exactly what they expect, and we are going to make very specific choices about your particular house. Forget every other house on the street. I don't care about them. We are merely, we're going to focus on your house and the fast, easy, and inexpensive updates we need to consider to sell it at top dollar quickly. We are not going to talk about your home. We are not going to talk about, the tree that great Uncle George planted in the front yard that's blocking the entire facade of the house that I say you need to cut down. Right? So if we change our mindset and look at our home as a house, a financial asset, then we are going to be able to approach the decision-making process in a different way. If we look further into each one of the items that we own, okay, there are plenty of people I've worked with who are like, you know what, I'm going to start tomorrow. What's happening? What's happening is they're like, wait a minute, I can't possibly go through this process. I can't do it. I can't make these decisions. But again, that's an emotional reaction. So understanding how to group them and make the decisions in which order means that you're chunking it and you're removing the emotion from it. It's not a walk down memory lane. You need to decide what you're going to do with each one of these items, and you just make a decision about it. So you see what I mean? Changing the mindset is really the key to a lot of things in life, but certainly the key to being successful when you're transitioning homes.
I love that. And, to me, I kind of get the sense that you are educating them about the marketing process, which is a little bit different, because, you're talking to them about the industry and about certain things. And, they begin to kind of join with you with that goal of who would be the correct avatar that you can approach. If you have a two bedroom, how many people or different family styles?
That's right. And it's also important to recognize I am not a realtor or a real estate agent. I refer to myself as a seller advocate. I stay in my lane. I focus on what is critical for sellers to know, to not only strategically focus their own time, but to put more money in their own pocket. The problem is in real estate, moving, you don't know really who to trust. Okay. Everybody's got their hand in your back pocket. Seems like every time you turn around, you are burning that visa or writing a check. I am a series of checks and balances between the seller and the realtor, so that I make sure that the seller really is making the best decisions for them. And in order to make those decisions, they need to know what the options are. But everybody today, and we're just inundated with this, especially now during the coronavirus, you go online, everybody's an expert, right? Everybody's an expert. So you don't know who to trust. Well, I can tell you that you can trust someone who has spent 15 years focusing on this process rather than someone who, hangs out their shingle and says, listen, I'll tell you what to do. I mean, this is really about people's time and money. It's very critical for them to understand.
So true. And I love this. Now, I also want to just dive into the fact that you are a seller advocate. This is a position that is not
no, and no one even knows what it is because I made it up.
A lot of people.
Right.
Exactly. So my point is, you are a trailblazer and have a unique position. And for somebody who is, kind of being a trailblazer as we go through this pandemic, what advice would you give them to have a job or create a position that is not the norm? What type of things do you have to do?
I think that's a great question. I think back to when I started this process over 15 years ago. I was newly divorced, single mother with 3 little kids, 4, 6, and 8. And while I received child support, I received no alimony. And we lived in a very expensive neighborhood in DC. And I had to make some very hard decisions. How was I going to be able to support my children? And, during this process, I'm sure a lot of people are going through this with COVID right now, those that have lost their jobs or reevaluating where they're working and what they're doing. I really had to peel it back to one question. What is my superpower? What is the one thing that I can do that really makes me, Caroline Carter, unique. What makes it unique to me? And I thought about the concept of creating order out of chaos. And that's what I do. I'm able to see a room that's a total wreck, but in my mind, I already see it, strategically laid out and beautifully designed. That is my one area of expertise. I am hyper organized. I've been that way since I was a child. I am a neat freak. I border a little bit on OCD. With 15 kids, you understand what I mean about being neat and clean. That's
exactly.
Well, yeah, right. That's a constant battle for a lot of us.
Right. I'm in chaos mode over here, but
that's exactly right. There is an order to your chaos. So what I realized is that many people have many different abilities. Okay. My ability was to be able to create an organizational structure and lead people to it, teach them how to create a structure that they can live with and understand, because we all learn differently, right? Visually, auditorily, whatever it is. So it was really exciting for me to pull together, okay, what am I really good at naturally? Meaning, what gets me out of bed in the morning? Okay. And the other thing was, is this particular superpower something that I can monetize? And so when I started, I said, you know what? I'll organize anything home related. I don't care if it's a garage, an outdoor shed. I'll organize anything for $50 an hour. I just picked a number and I said, okay, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's literally how I started. And anybody who's looking for a way out today, before you go blasting your services all over the internet, pick one thing, right? The world is a big place. If you zero in on the one thing that you not only are good at, but you enjoy doing, then you will be successful. And by spending that time all those years ago, yes, I've zigged and zagged and bobbed and weaved and up and down, and but I've still stayed true to that organization, creating order out of chaos being sort of my main motivation for getting out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's so good. Now, so I have a couple questions because, I got so many.
Yeah, that's
notes.
okay.
Like,
that's okay. I've done that before too.
Okay. So when you are doing that organizational structure, you said everybody learns differently. What key components have to go into that structure so that it is universally understood?
So I think you have to start by understanding a little bit more about that person. You take their current structure or lack of structure and talk to them about what's working and what's not working. What would you like to be able to do? What would you like to be able to see? How would you like it to function in an ideal world? And then you can build starting from the ground up. Forget what's already there. I just did an article recently about organizational tips, how to create the perfect pantry. And really, you're taking this particular area that needs to be organized, but you have to look at it in relation to everything else. How does this person, function? If they don't function at peak capacity, what is it going to take to get them? What's the stopgap? What's stopping them? And you solve for those problems first, and then you offer them options to discover, are you a visual? Meaning if I put shelving in that allowed you, or baskets or bins that allowed you to actually see everything in that category, like cans of soup or whatever it is, would that help you? They might say, oh my God, that's exactly right. I just need to be able to see it in one glance. If someone else said, no, I don't care about that. I just need the bin. And I'm going to put a sign on the edge of the bin or the end of the bin that says soup. That's enough for me. Right? So you're really trying to get to how it is that they learn to be able to help them pass the hurdles that they find that they can't get there. A lot of people are very good once you put a system in place, they're able to follow it. But some people don't even have any idea how to start to build a system. And that's where you can really be of service if you're an organizational expert.
So true. Because, now in my case, one of the things that we struggle with is that you have a whole bunch of different people
at different ages,
type of learning styles. So how do you determine what structure is going to be best that all people
you have to start with you, because if something happens to mom, the wheels come off the bus. So in your particular case, I would start with you and say, for the common areas of the home, what's driving you crazy? Where do you need this structure? And let's start there. Okay. Pre-corona, I would say, all right, Lachelle, tell me about how your family functions during the week. You may say, well, kids 1 through 4 are home. Kids 4 through 8 leave at 7:30. Kids 8 through 12 leave at 6 a.m. Whatever it is. And then we look at your day. Okay. Tell me where their cubbies are. Can't even imagine what 15 cubbies might look like. Or you may say to me, we don't have cubbies. Kids 1 through 5 use number 1. Kids 5 through 10 use number 2. Whatever it is, you have to really uncover what it is you need, what's working, what's not working with what you currently have. And then as an organizational expert, I would say to you, okay, here are our options. You could do this, 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 and this. And it's all about budget. It's all about materials. It's all about what's going to aesthetically look, look good in your home, right? So it's really all about communication, communicating with and understanding and being able to, say, hey, listen, this is where I get tripped up.
I like that. That's so good. Now, so the next thing is with you being very focused and clear about your objective, what are some tips that you could give somebody to stay focused and to not be distracted by the squirrels?
Oh, yeah. I love the shiny object theory because we all suffer from it. Ooh, let me just see who's on Facebook. And it's because you sometimes hit an emotional roadblock. Here's what I would say, and it's especially true in the home transition process. You have to chunk things. Have you ever heard that expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time? That's right. So home transition is really a marathon. It's not a race. And there are going to be, 6 levels or 6 steps, if you will, that you have to progress through in order to kind of successfully get to the next step, in order to eventually get to your new home. When you need a physical and mental break, you simply need to step away, because if you don't, the quality of the decisions that you're making will be poor, right? Because let's talk about that emotional soundtrack. Okay, you may be sorting socks that have no mates or whatever it is. You may be sorting, I don't even know what it is, the pantry, the basement storage, but you're not paying attention, right? Because your mind track, the emotional, the second story that's going on, that emotional soundtrack has got you thinking about your mother, and you're very concerned because, you need to go over there and check on her, and geez, you got to get to the store, and that 38th load of laundry hasn't been done today. So you're really not doing yourself any service because you're not focused. So whenever you find your mind wandering or physically you're getting tired, it's time to really step away, because no one is used to this concentrated amount of physical energy, pardon me, that it takes to move homes.
I see.
So I would say just step away. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
You all right?
Go ahead.
Okay. So you were saying the physical energy, we need to step away because we don't want to.
Well, right, because you're not used to making those decisions all day, every day. Yeah. And you're emotionally attached to everything you're touching, every decision you're making. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's good because those are some key things for people to remember as it relates to, this unrealistic goal. So it's like, I got to move in 30 days.
Right,
but you've
exactly.
been in this house for 27 years and you think you can get it done in 30 days. And, then you might have a lot of things your kids
That's
have
exactly
grown up,
right.
they've moved
That's exactly
out,
right.
so
But here's the benefit. First of all, let me address the time frame. 30 days is doable. I've done it. Okay. It's all a function of committing to the date and removing the emotion from it. Right? You need to walk through each one of these steps. Right? Because not only are you sorting the whole house, you are ascertaining whether you read the book and do it yourself, or you are working with a realtor who's going to tell you what changes you need to consider making. You are doing a lot of things at once. But as long as you understand, Lachelle, and I think this is the key, home transition is really the same for everybody. Okay? The only difference is the location and the price point. But the process that we all have to go through is really the same, right? We have to prepare our homes to sell. We have to deal with our 300,000 items. We have to consider storage, short-term storage, long-term storage. We have to plan for the movers. We have to supervise the move. We have to pack or have them pack, and we have to unpack. It's the same for everybody. What changes is the size of the house, the number of things we own, because, you could have a small house that's chock full, or you could have a larger house that doesn't have as many things. Now you put kids and pets into the mix, and all of a sudden, the possibility of going sideways at any point in the day is ever present. So, but half the battle here is understanding what is going to be expected of you. And that's why I have really loved being sort of like the sole truth teller in this home transition expert industry. I made that one up too. But as a home transition expert, you educate people to say, look, this is a roller coaster. You are going to be up, you are going to be down. Here are the steps you're going to go through. Here are the decisions you're going to be expected to make. Okay. You're going to get burned out. It's okay. You're just going to take the time to, repair and regroup. And the next day you're going to start again. So it really, when I talk about it being a marathon, not a race, everybody's time frame is different, but we all go through the same steps. So you don't feel as alone, and you certainly do not need to be disorganized. The other thing I want to say that makes, the Smart Moves home transition process different is that I learned 15 years ago that the way that we were considering the sale of a home and a move was wrong. I say it was wrong because it needed to be changed, meaning when you are preparing your home to sell, that's the time to go through the sorting, purging, donating, and packing process. Not when you've sold the house, meaning look at combining the preparation of the sale of the home, right, and the move at the same time. So that while you're getting the house ready to sell, you are going through all the purging, sorting, donating, and you are actually packing to move, right? So if you do it this way, by the time your house is on the market, you'll be 60% packed to move, right? Whereas most people say, no, I'm going to sell the house first. I'll put whatever in storage I have to put in, and then I'll deal with the move. Because, who doesn't know how to move? It's not a big deal. Well, it's fine if you're using black trash bags, but, for those of us who have kids, dogs, other pets, and, cars, and when we're moving our lives from one community to another, there are a lot of things to consider, and it doesn't fit in a black trash bag.
So good. That is so good. Now, So
Sure.
my last question, I thought that was going to be it, but you led me somewhere else. So you're with your
Hmm.
title and it being something that you have created for yourself. For people who are in that space, how do you keep yourself understanding your value when you have to educate people
Yeah,
about the value
that's a
that
great
you
question.
provide?
So how, if I
So I
heard you
hope that
correctly, you
question
say,
makes sense.
how in this particular space, how do I continuously provide value to the clients that I serve, to anybody who's selling and moving and wants to put more money in their pocket and focus their time? Is that what you're saying? How do I stay relevant?
Well, that is true because,
Right.
like what I say, is your position. A lot of people aren't familiar with, so a lot of people may devalue what you do because they don't understand it. So, how do you keep that balance with knowing your worth and educating people?
Right. Well, I'm not
So
a
that
crumb
you're not
grabber,
just
from
grabbing for
way
any
back.
crumb that
I'm
somebody
not a
wants to
crumb
give you.
grabber, but
Right. Right. But some people are in that
right.
space because they're like, they don't
Exactly.
understand. So
So
then they just
so
discount their
here's
value.
what
You know what I
separates
mean?
me from anybody else. And again, this is a new industry, meaning most anybody who worked in this space worked with seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I did was 15 years ago, I said, I'm not just going to work with seniors
Mm-hmm.
because it's the moms like you with 15 kids, working full time, trying to manage schedules. They're the ones who need the help and they want a cheat
Mm-hmm.
sheet. Just tell me what to do. Tell me how to make the best decisions. And I'm going to do the best I can to focus my time so that I leave more money in my pocket to get to the other side. Here's what I would say. In order for them to understand the value, at least for me, I have to be a truth teller. And I tell the truth early and often. I may not be the most popular person at a cocktail party, but as soon as someone understands that this is a discoverable process, meaning we don't just make it up every single time. We know that there are certain aspects that are present in the successful sale of your home. We know there are certain aspects that are present in a successful move,
Mm-hmm.
right? We also know that there are a lot of mistakes people make because they think they know it all and they don't,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in order for me to continue to be relevant and to provide this value, I stick with the truth. I educate someone about what they need to know when they approach this process and where they're going to be expected to make decisions and how to avoid the mistakes that so many people in their position have made through the years and continue to make. Okay. That's the only thing I can do. Typically, and this is really important, I built a business based on referral only. Okay. What that means is that 85% of the people, it's a large amount, 85% of the people that still work with me were either former clients or were referred to me. I have never advertised. People find me because I'm the only person that does what I do the way I do it,
That's
if that
awesome.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That is great.
And yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. I don't speak to something I am not, truly well versed in. Okay. I stay in my lane. I don't price your houses. I don't, inspect them as a certified inspector. I stick with what I know that can help you to be successful, to take more responsibility for a process that affects you and your family the most. That's all I do. And I do it again and again and again.
Love that. That is so true. And I think that's one of the things to where staying in your lane, getting your own zone of genius, because a lot of people are trying to be all things to all people and you
You
can't do it.
can't.
So this is just,
You can't do it because you'll burn
this
out.
has just been great. So you have given us the book that you have written, okay?
Yes, called Smart Moves, How to Save Time and Money While Transitioning Your Home and Life, and it's on Amazon.
And so what last piece of advice would you give, and then what's the best way for everybody to get a hold of you?
I would say the last piece of advice is to understand the difference between house and home and the importance of making decisions with your head, not your heart. Because there's a big difference. And I would love for people to reach out. You can find my website at carolinecarter.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And, if anybody's interested, they could email me directly at caroline@carolinecarter.com. I'd love to hear from them. Bring me your questions. I'm a puzzle solver, so I would love to help you through what I know is a very difficult transition for people.
I love that. Well, we just really want to thank you for your time, Caroline. I'm so glad that we connected, and we may have a part 2, okay? Because
oh, that's awesome, Lachelle. That's awesome. Part 2, we're going to have to talk about how you manage to raise 15 children without losing your blessed mind. That's what I want to know.
That's right. Well, yeah.
That's what I want.
Great. Well, I am so glad we connected, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Lachelle. You too. My best.
Bye-bye. What a great interview with Caroline. I love the concept of making decisions with your head, not with your heart. That was one thing. When you notice that you're not having focus, step away. Selling a house instead of a home. I mean, there are so many different nuggets that you can get out of this interview. I just can't say enough about it. So I'm really glad that I was able to connect with her, and I hope that you guys were taking great notes, but not just taking these notes, but thinking of ways that you can implement them, how they can make your life that much better after today. One conversation, making one different decision can change the whole trajectory of your whole day, your week, your month, your relationship, your environment. I mean, this is the stuff that is just priceless. So thank you all for listening. If you are interested in sharing your insights and being a guest, please feel free to email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com. I'm also available on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and I have a YouTube channel. So I want to thank you all for listening. I encourage you, share this podcast with others. It doesn't cost you anything. Share it. If it's some insightful message that resonates with you, share it to other people. Also, do a review. If it's something that really changed your mindset, you never know, something that you are struggling with can be a lifeline for somebody else. They could be thinking and just trying to figure out what is it about whatever. And you could just be able to verbalize that in such a way that it can really shed a light on a lot of darkness on other people. So I encourage you to write reviews, share podcasts, whatever it takes. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So again, I want to thank you very much for listening, and go out and make some good decisions today. Talk to you soon. Bye.